Okay, at 5:30 p.m., I'm going to call the meeting to order. If staff could please do a roll call.
Commissioner Brewer,
Here.
Commissioner McDaniel,
Here.
Commissioner McCowan,
Here.
Commissioner Jablonski,
Here.
Commissioner Byrd,
Here.
Commissioner McClure,
Here.
Commissioner Griffith, Commissioner Kindle, and Commissioner Parker. We have a quorum.
Starting with our consent docket, item numbers 1, consideration of approval, acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of the minutes as follows. Planning Commission meeting minutes of August 14th, 2025. Certificates of survey, items number 2 and 3, consideration of approval, acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of COS-2425-8. Consideration of a Norman Rule Certificate of Survey submitted by Heritage Infinity Living Trust, Pollard and Whited Surveying, Inc. for Ridgeline Estates for 338.27 acres of property generally located a quarter-mile west of 144th Avenue Southeast and south of Cedar Lane Road. Item number 3, consideration of approval, acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of COS-2526-1. Consideration of Norman Rule Certificate of Survey submitted by Megan Maroney, Pelafig Succession Trust, Pollard and Whited Surveying, Inc. for Joshua Oaks Estates for 79.77 acres of property generally located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Bethel Road and 108th Avenue Northeast. Does any member of the commission wish to remove any item from the consent docket? Does any member of the audience wish to remove any item from the consent docket? Seeing none, I would take a motion
Move to approve.
Second.
and a vote.
You may vote. All votes have been cast and it carries 7-0.
Moving on to non-consent items, reading items number 4 and 5 together. Item number 4, consideration of approval, acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of ordinance O-2425-38, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, amending section 36-201 of the so as to remove the east half of the northwest quarter of Section 2, Township 8 North, Range 2 west of the Indian Meridian to Norman, Cleveland County, Oklahoma, from the A2 Rural Agricultural District and place the same in PUD Planned Unit Development and providing for the severability thereof south of East Lindsay Street between 36th Avenue Southeast and 48th Avenue Southeast. And item number 5, consideration of approval, acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of PP-2425-12. Consideration of a preliminary plat submitted by Premium Land LLC for Ironwood Hills, a planned unit development for 77.97 acres of property, generally located south of East Lindsay Street between 36th Avenue Southeast and 48th Avenue Southeast. On both these items, the applicant requests postponement to the October 9th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. Again, that is the October 9th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. There's no discussion. I would take a motion for that postponement.
Move to postpone to the October 9th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting.
Second.
And if there's no other discussion on the motion, I would take a vote.
You may vote. All votes have been cast and it carries 7-0.
Moving to items number 6 and 7. Item number 6, consideration of approval, acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of ordinance O-2526-6, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, amending section 36-201 of the Code of the City of Norman so as to remove the southwest quarter of section 4, Township 8 North, Range 2 west of the Indian Meridian to Norman, Cleveland County, Oklahoma, from the A2 Rural Agricultural District and I1 Light Industrial District and place the same in a PUD Planned Unit Development and providing for the severability thereof, 1751 East Imhoff Road. And item number 7, consideration of approval, acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of PP-2526-7, consideration of a preliminary plat submitted by Colerain Capital Group, Inc. for Colerain Multifamily, a planned unit development for 32.50 acres of property generally located north of East Imhoff Road between Classen Boulevard and 24th Avenue Southeast. Both of these items have been postponed to the October 9th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. I would take a motion for the postponement to the October 9th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting.
Move to postpone to the October 9th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting.
Second.
And if there's no discussion on that motion, I would take a vote.
You may vote. All votes have been cast and it
Moving on to items number 8 and 9. Item number 8, consideration of approval, acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of ordinance O-2526-9, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, amending section 36-201 of the Code of the City of Norman so as to remove the northeast quarter of section 19, Township 2 west of the Indian Meridian to Norman, Cleveland County, Oklahoma, from the C2 General Commercial District, RM6 Medium Density Apartment District, and A2 Rural Agriculture District, and place the same in a PUD planned unit development and providing for the severability thereof, generally located at the southwest corner of the West Rock Creek Road and North Porter Avenue intersection. And item number 9, consideration of approval, acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of PP-2526-9, consideration of a preliminary plat submitted by Tull Commercial Properties LLC, Cedar Creek Engineering, for 2200 North Porter Avenue, a planned unit development for 69.68 acres of property generally located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Porter Avenue and Rock Creek Road. I would take the staff presentation.
Hello, Commissioners. Justin Fidge, the Planning Department. As stated, we have a rezoning and preliminary plat running together for a rezoning at the property generally located around 2200 North Porter Avenue. So this is the existing zoning map. So to the north, there is existing R1. It is the Hawthorne Place addition. To the south, there is RM2, which is where the Crystal Heights neighborhood is located. To the east is R1, where the IOOF cemetery is located. And to the west, we have Norman North facilities, which are zoned RM6. These are the existing land uses, which I just mentioned. An aerial photograph of the site from 2023. A photo looking north on North Porter Avenue. This is one looking south on North Porter Avenue. Looking east towards the cemetery, and looking west towards the subject site, with an additional picture looking south towards the subject site off of West Rock Creek Road. This is the location map for the PUD. Here is the preliminary plat, preliminary site plan, green space plan, and a preliminary park plan. Going back to the green space plan, I would like to state that the developers are proposing a mixed-use development. It will feature 2 development areas. In development area 1, it will contain a majority of the commercial office uses with allowances for residential above the ground floor. While development area 2 will allow for a bulk of the residential uses, including things like duplexes, large apartment buildings, that also allow for commercial uses on the ground floor of those larger apartment complexes. There's also a single-family home located in Development Area 1. It is allowed to stay there and exist under its current use under the R1 Single-Family Dwelling District zoning ordinance regulations. However, if the home is ever removed, it will revert to the standard uses allowed in Development Area 1 they are proposing. The proposed development is consistent with the AIM Norman Comprehensive Land Use Plan. It does propose a mix of uses, increased interconnectivity, and utilizes extending existing utilities. Inclusion of open space around the pond. It provides increased pedestrian infrastructure and a mix of housing types as proposed in the attached PUD narrative. And with that, staff does forward this request to Planning Commission for consideration and recommendation to City Council. Staff is present for comments, and the applicant is also available for.
I have a question for staff. Could you show me the map for green space again? The reason I'm asking is you said that this single family home, if it could be torn down later and something else could be built. And I'm looking at the details of the PUD, and they say there's no maximum impervious coverage on individual lots in the property. So I'm just trying to understand what exactly is that single-family home. If it's torn down, what is the lot that it sits on?
It would be on lot 2.
Okay, so the picture I'm seeing, the PUD would lock in green space, and what I'm seeing is green, is the green space? Am I reading this correctly?
No, can I say? So I think, Commissioner Jablonski, what you're asking is, what we're seeing on the green space is we've got over here on the right-hand side, on the east side of it, south of that single-family home. If they demo the single-family home, would they essentially be able to duplicate this building and put it up here on the corner? And I don't know that we have that. I think the applicant might be able to answer that, so I don't think you have anything on that.
No, I would defer that question to the applicant. Sorry, I thought you were asking about which lot the house was on specifically.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff by commissioners? Seeing none, I would take the applicant presentation.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to add. Justin did a great job. Sean Rieger for the applicant in this case. Thank you for being here this evening and giving us this consideration. Commissioner Jablonski, let me cover that very quickly if I may. First of all, the existing zoning on this is C2 in the upper right quadrant, so there is no impervious limitation on that right now. That basically wouldn't be as developed, but it does have setback requirements of 20 feet on each of the frontages, and the pond is WQPZ zone, which has a buffer area beyond it as well. So there would be some buffering space from those aspects, but within the confines of it beyond that, it would be allowable to be built out as basically commercial. Let me go through the presentation. I don't have a whole lot more to add than Justin did. Again, he did a great job of explaining it there. Just to see the aerial there, you see the cemetery on the right and Norman North on the left with their new stadium, really nice, and their new trail or running track around on the north end over there. GIS, always like to show you the pond itself is the WQPZ zone, basically with additional buffering beyond it, and we are absolutely honoring that. We're not making any changes to the WQPZ and have put in the buffer, which you will see around the pond throughout its entirety. A large sewer line coming through the site already, so we don't really have to extend significant utilities into it. You see the zoning is existing, is already RM6 and already C2. We really aren't changing the zoning significantly here. You'll see on the layout of the plot, it is basically honoring that existing zoning, although we can't use those existing zonings because C2 does not allow for residential and RM6 does not allow for commercial, and we are blending them to have some abilities to do upper story residential and ground story commercial in the RM6 area. So we wanted to make sure we had that flexibility and feasibility as it develops out. So existing zoning, you see it, RM6, C2, A2, existing AIM, no changes to AIM, and the proposed zoning is a PUD. As Justin mentioned some of the comments from the staff report, I'll sprinkle those in too. The proposed development is consistent with the urban highland use policies in AIM. The site plan, you see it here. You see now those two development areas outlined. The upper part, area 1, is in red. The lower part is outlined in blue. That is area 2. And those are basically the distinguishing areas of commercial on the top and residential on the south end. Again, mixed though with the allowances for commercial on the first floor of the residential and residential on the upper floors of the commercial. So the site plan you see there, I don't have a pointer, but on the area 1 on the upper right there, you see the commercial center out in front on Porter Avenue. That is likely one of the first things to be built, and then behind it is also the commercial allowances, and those would likely be office, but also could be the mixed use component of the residential above the commercial on the back side of that property. You see now kind of the buffering all around the pond, basically roughly 100 feet at least, all the way around the pond of green space buffering to protect that pond and make sure we have some natural filtration and natural distance of buffering between any structures and the pond itself. On the lower end, you see the street, the public street coming through. That is connecting down into the neighborhood below. I would remind you the neighborhood below is basically already zoned RM6 and RM2. It is already multifamily. It's actually built more as a single family product south of us, but the zoning is RM6 and RM2 to the south of us. We're not aware of any protests from the south at all or anywhere on this project. On the lower right is basically the more traditional, probably the more traditional single-family, sort of garden story walk-up multifamily. And then the lower left is more intended as probably a 55 and older senior housing product model. On the left side of the site is Norman North. You see a trail, I'll get to it on a different slide here, that will go all the way around the pond. We are hopeful that Norman North High School would incorporate that trail into the pond on their side of the site. We, of course, have no control over that. We will certainly be helpful and cooperative to the extent we can to help them do that. So development area 1, again, commercial retail office with allowances for residential, and development area 2, multifamily residential. Staff said the proposed development is consistent with the residential policies in that it will accommodate a variety of housing densities. And we're starting to see this in the projects that are starting to come through after AIM. We're starting to see more of a mixture of different housing types. I know I've shown you several now that have duplexes and single family or mixed use and single family. So we're starting to see that mixture sort of percolate through as we go. This is the preliminary plat. This is something we always like to show you. It is something you're voting on. 69 acres roughly, protected WQPZ. You see again, the pond is protected. And staff wrote that it promotes interconnectivity by extending Crystal Circle, which is that public street coming up through the center of it, an existing street into the development site. This is the green space, large amount of green space. This did go in front of Parks, and Parks Board looked at it as a private park solution, and you see kind of the dark green area is the private park solution. So basically we have taken the whole shoreline space all around that edge where we do have the bulk of the development and created that as the private park space and the trail itself that will go around the pond as it develops. So we're excited that I think that will be a pretty special place in the green areas. And you see how far the structures have been pulled away from the pond itself in both the senior housing area and the back side of the commercial area there. So I think it'll be a pretty special place as they develop this out. Green space is about 24 acres, about 35% of the entire area is green. Unanimous Parks Board approval. And staff wrote the proposed development is consistent with the protected and sensitive areas policies due to no proposed development within any areas designated as protective and sensitive. So in closing, summary, there you see the site plan in context. Again, that street coming up from the bottom, just continuation from the bottom on through the site, a public street, the only public street, and then it will come over and connect into Porter. Staff finished with saying that the proposed development is consistent with the AIM Norman Comprehensive Land Use Plan because it proposes a mix of uses, increased interconnectivity, utilizing existing city utilities, and et cetera. I won't read the rest because I think Justin read the same thing, so I'm not going to repeat what Justin told you. No protests that we're aware of, and it looks fairly quiet in here tonight, so we're happy to see that. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and we thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions by commissioners for the applicant? And everyone's microphone is on.
Maybe I'll ask one question. So in this picture, you have 96 acres in the development, and that includes the lake, is that right? Sorry, 69, okay. And how many acres of green space? 24. Roughly, like, what does an acre look like on here? So if I'm looking at that top right corner, like, how many acres is that roughly? And so this kind of gets to the question that I was asking before. Yeah. That looks like a huge chunk of the green space. The PUD itself is actually the zoning, but the PUD doesn't say a minimum amount of green space. It says approximately. But if you're allowed to change this huge chunk of the green space into something else, I just want to know what I'm voting on is all.
As I usually answer that question, you've heard me kind of say this over the years, but first of all, we can't do less than 10 to 15% for a PUD of open space. But if we were to dramatically change that site plan, we would have to be back in front of you with a site plan approval modification. So if we started just blanketing that site, we couldn't do it without coming back in front of you and get a site plan approval.
Asked and answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Any other questions by commissioners for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, I'd move to audience comments and Planning Commission discussion. And if none, I would take a motion for this item.
Make a motion to approve.
I second.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I would take a vote.
You may vote. All votes have been cast and it carries 7-0.
Moving to miscellaneous discussion, does staff have any information for commission? Seeing none, do commissioners have any comments they'd like to make? Seeing none, if there's nothing else to come before the commission, I will declare it adjourned.